Hi, my name is Ken Gire and I'm a writer, and I'm coming to you from the library of St. Mary's Seminary in Baltimore, Maryland, where I've done a lot of research and a lot of writing on a novel that I feel very passionately about, and the novel is titled Centurion. I want to tell you a little bit about the novel. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the rewards that are connected to the project, and also why this particular project is so important to me. Centurion is a story about the centurion who oversaw the crucifixion of Jesus, told from a Roman point of view. He hadn't had any exposure to who Jesus was before that day when Jesus was crucified. And for 6 hours he watched him die, and afterwards there was this earthquake that both literally and figuratively brought him to his knees. And what he says next has stayed with me for much of my life. And what he said was, "Surely this was the Son of God." And I always wondered what happened to him. I wondered what his story was. I was really curious about where that moment of faith led him. And so that was a catalyst for the story. That's the heart of the story. And it seemed logical to me that he would probably pursue someone who really knew this Jesus, really loved this Jesus. And the only people on the hill were one disciple, and the rest of them were women. And so I had him pursue one of the women, Mary Magdalene, to find out who this Jesus was. The whole first act is about that pursuit and him beginning to think a different way and all these unsettling feelings that he was experiencing. And as he talks with her and pursues her to find out who this Jesus was, he falls in love, and she falls in love with him. Then at the end of Act 1, very suddenly and unexpectedly, he's transferred to the frontier. He's a career soldier with professional ambition, and he has to follow his orders. During that time on the frontier, he feels the silence of God, and he prays, he gets no answers, he doesn't understand. And little by little, with every battle he fights, something of the faith that he had, as small as it was, he begins to lose. And not only that, but something of who he was as a human being. He begins to lose some of his humanity. And by the end of his career, his Numidian slave, who was so close to him, could hardly recognize the man he was from the man he once was. And it was during that time, he comes, at the end of his career, he comes to Rome, which he had never seen before, and to meet Caesar, who was at that time Nero, whom he had never met, to get his commission, to get his reward for a lifetime of service for the glory of Rome. And he realized during that time that he had served all these years the wrong king and the wrong kingdom. And he realized that he had traded his life for a box of gold. A box of gold. And it's that time that his Numidian slave says, "You were a different man when you met her, and you were a different man when you left her. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe it's not too late to find her and see if you can't regain some of those losses." And so the whole third act is about his pursuit to find out where she is and try to recover some of those losses and the recovery of his faith. I want to tell you something about who I am and why that story was attractive to me. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas in the 50s during an idyllic time. I grew up with a drive-in movie theater behind my house, of all things. We used to sneak in and watch movies on the weekend. And then my parents dropped me off at two places usually on Saturday. One was either the River Oaks Library or the River Oaks Movie Theater. And those were the two dominant influences in my life, personally and professionally. And became a writer and loved films and just absolutely loved cinematically told stories. As it turned out, I went on to go to college, go to seminary, didn't major in English, didn't major in journalism, writing, or anything like that. Never took a course on it during that time, but just felt this kind of call of a while to write. And so I didn't have any teachers, I didn't have any mentors, I couldn't go back to school at the time. And so I just began to study film. And I realized that they were both sequential art forms and you could translate one into the other. And that's how I became a writer. And that's how I teach writing, to show people how to do that. My book, Windows of the Soul, chronicles my pilgrimage as a writer, but both also chronicles my quest for a more intimate relationship with Jesus. Even though I'd gone through 4 years of seminary, I'd accumulated all this knowledge, all these books, I realized I didn't have this deep, passionate love that I saw in some people. I remember coming across this story about this young teenage girl in the former Soviet Union, and she didn't know anything about Christianity. She had never gone to church, didn't know anything about the doctrines of the church or the differences between the denominations. Someone slipped her a Gospel of Luke. When she finished reading Luke, you know what she said? And I just love this. She said, "I fell in love with him." And I thought, wow, isn't that everything that going to seminary should do, or going to church to do, or reading a book? But it didn't do it for me. And I know it didn't do it for a lot of other people. And so I began my own quest, my own journey to find out who this Jesus was on a more personal and intimate level. And my book, Windows of the Soul, which is one of the rewards, chronicles that search. And also a book that I wrote called Intimate Moments with the Savior talks about, just focuses on Jesus. I wonder what it was like. I always wondered what it was like to be in a crowd and to hear him for the first time, or to be one of the people who was healed or touched or heard him teach. And what I tried to do in Intimate Moments with the Savior is just push away everything else to allow you to face-to-face, almost face-to-face contact with him, that close to where you could see him, in hopes that you would fall in love with him as well. And that, literary journey is what led me to Centurion. Why this project means so much to me is that for me it's a culmination of a lifetime of work, a lifetime of hopes, a lifetime of dreams. Even as a little kid, I always dreamed of maybe someday doing something in the film industry. The target of the campaign is to provide enough funds to finish the writing of the novel and then to adapt it as a screenplay. If there is any money that comes in over and above that, that will be used to move me to Los Angeles. And I'm going to take a year and I'm going to work as hard as I can, network as much as I can, learn as much as I can about the film industry and about screenwriting. And here's the thing, I'm so excited about it. I'm so passionate, I'm so determined, and yet at the same time, I am so scared because I'm 63 and hardly the time to begin a new career anywhere. I know it's a long shot, but I would love to see it happen. I would love to see you become a part of this journey, a part of this adventure with me. And who knows, maybe someday if it does get made into a movie, you sit there in the theater next to the person that you're with and say, I was a part of that. I had something to do with that. So I just want to tell you thank you for taking the time. If you decide you'd like to be a part of the project, thank you for that as well.